All right. Behold, humans living in an underground cave. This is an allegory. So, what is an allegory? An allegory is a story in which the characters and elements of the story actually pertain to something outside of the story. You might think of Animal Farm by George Orwell. That is not about animals. An allegory is making a point about something outside of the story. So the elements and the characters and all of the pieces and parts of the allegory pertain to something else. This allegory was delivered orally by a man named Socrates. Socrates was, many people believe, I'm always joking about Ferris Bueller, but Socrates was probably one of the wisest philosophers, although he didn't write anything down. And he had students follow him around. He was much like Christ in that he had these disciples following him around. They would record what he said. He delivered this allegory one day, and his student, Plato, recorded it. Then Plato archived it in his book, The Republic, and now we have it. Now, as I go through this allegory, I want you to remember two important things. The Oracle of Delphi said, after being asked, Socrates was the wisest person on earth. But how? Socrates came to Socrates, he said, nah. But it turned out to be true. But it only turned out to be true because Socrates knew the limits of his knowledge. He knew he was not the end-all be-all. And that's the Socratic method. He would go around and he would ask people. For example, Euthyphro, he said, I want to know the definition of justice. Who do you ask? A judge. So he went and asked a judge, what is justice? The judge said, well, it's very easy. It's this, this, and this. And then Socrates just asked him questions until the judge just threw his hands in the air and said, I don't know. Rest my case, right? And so Socrates, in the end, it came to pass that, in the narrative anyway, that he was the wisest person on earth, but only because he knew the limits of his knowledge, only because he wasn't a pompous ass. The enemy of education is not ignorance. Ignorance is like an empty bucket. You can pour something in that bucket. You can fill your own bucket. But knowing is the enemy of education, the enemy of learning, the enemy of development in life. Knowing. And what is knowing? Have you ever, a friend, I know you do. Hey, Sally, Helen, for lack of a better word, name. Helen, it's going to rain today. Oh, well, no, it's not. Helen, the sky is blue. Well, if you look at it really, Helen, 2 + 2 is 4. Well, there is. Knowing is the enemy of education, not ignorance. And the second thing I want you to remember as I go through this allegory is that the man who delivered this allegory originally in Athens, Greece, in ancient Athens, was eventually put to death for corrupting the minds of the youth of Athens. Behold, I feel like a weatherman. Behold, humans living in an underground cave. Here they are. And they have been living there their whole lives. They were born there. And their heads are shackled into place so that they can only see what's right before them. Their arms are shackled down. They're shackled down into their chairs. And all they can see is what's right in front of them. And on the back wall here, there's a shadow. In this case, it's a tree. And these young, and some of them old, men and women, have lived there their whole lives, taking place in one vital dedication. to identify the shadow. These guys here are called the puppet masters. They are the masters. They have trained the prisoners to identify the shadows. When a tree comes up, the masters have trained them to say, tree. And that's great. Good job, son. Good job. And what's more than that, the masters have a game they play. See, they can throw their voices and they can make it appear as if the shadow is talking. So it might be a talking bear. And when a talking bear comes up, the prisoners say, talking bear. And they get the trophy that day. But what's more than that, the masters, they have a order in which they show the puppets. These are puppets. See this tree here? See the fire? And the fire creates the light that throws the shadow of the tree onto the back of the cave wall. They play like puppets. So to the prisoners, reality would be literally nothing but thin air and empty shadows. But what's more than that, the masters have an order that they go in. At one moment, it may be a tree. The next moment, it might be a vase. The next moment, it could be a talking bear. And the moment after that, a chess piece. Now, they wouldn't know what a chess piece is. They would only know that that object is called chess piece. They wouldn't know what a bear is. All they would know is that that object, accompanied by sound, is a talking bear. But there's always one guy down here, always one guy or lady. And she is the best of all. She can do it. He can do it. He can identify. He can identify 10 moves in the future. He says, oh, tree. But wait, stop. Almost you have this image of him with a pipe. He's a professor. Next will be the talking bear. And after the talking bear, we will have a vase. And then there will be a chess piece. And then after the chess piece, and he goes on pontificating about how many moves in the future he can identify these shadows. And the prisoners are enamored. He just identified 10 moves in the future. Wow! I want to be friends with that dude. In fact, I'm going to study very, very hard. I'm going to study my shadows. And maybe one day, if I'm good enough, maybe one day I too can identify 10 shadows. And so that person, this prisoner among prisoners, as it were, that person gains what's called expert power. Expert power, you have it all. Whatever clique you were in high school, whatever clique you're in now, whoever you trust, whoever you believe in the most, they hold incredible sway in your little world, don't they? What they say might as well be law. But one day, one of the prisoners gets loose. He wakes up. And he realizes that he can move his head and his arms are no longer shackled. And he stands up. His back cracks for the first time. And And then he looks up, tree. But then they're already all blathering on about, but the next time. But a funny thing happens. You ever walked out? I know you have. You ever walked out of a theater into the June sun? You know, you walk out, hey, that was a great movie. Whoa. right? What's happening? The sun blinds you. Oh, your eyes, it takes a little bit of time for your eyes to adjust, as they say. Same thing happens to him here. He gets loose and what is it? If you're in the nighttime and someone shines a spotlight over here, are you going to be like turning from the spotlight? No, you're going to instantly turn towards the light. This is what he does. Of course, he turns towards the fire in the background. But he can't see it. And he certainly can't see the master here. The master's kind of down in the shadows. But as he gropes his way up I did draw this. Yes, this is my drawing. I'll just take credit for it. But anyway, as he gropes his way up the stairs here, he comes into the presence of the light. And his eyes, he can't see it all. I mean, kind of like me looking at all these lights right now. But he can't really see it all at once. Okay, but it takes some time. But slowly and surely, the clarity comes into his eyes. He becomes illuminated. Now think of that word, illuminated. The lumen is the base that's light. Illuminated is filled with light. And it is used for many different reasons, but mainly it is meant the light has come into my life. A spark has gone off in my mind. Where I was blind, now I see. Can you see the light? And if you've ever watched the Blues Brothers, and you have to watch it today, you know John Belushi sitting there and the light comes from the cathedral ceilings and it hits him and he says, I have seen the light. Okay, it's kind of like that. So he comes up here and here he sees and he hears the voice of his master saying, identify the object. Holding this tree on a stick. And he looks down. He can't see the man, okay, but he can see the object. And he looks down. He looks at the tree. He looks at the fire. He looks at this tree again. He says, no! And he makes the very first epiphany of his life. He says, I've been lied to. I have been lied to. Look, they told me this was a tree. That's not a tree. That is some kind of like a vague copy of a tree. It's not even a good one. It doesn't even have like whatever this is. Now look at what this tree is. Say it's a cardboard cutout or a little ceramic outline. It has texture. This is a one-dimensional shadow on the back of a wall. How do you explain texture to a person who's never experienced it? Well, it's kind of like you rub it and it kind of you feel. Okay. So he knows he's been lied to. Look, my whole life has been a lie. This is not the real tree. Don't. Bart Simpson's, don't. No, it's Homer, whatever. This is not the real tree. This is And this master, the voice of this master here is not the prescriber of all truth, the giver of truth to all things, but this fire here. Whatever this is. And he's just beginning to see the color of the fire. How do you explain color to someone who's never seen color? Well, it feels a little bit hot, like red, it's hot. No, come on. Oh, well, it's like Valentine's Day. No, come on. How do you do it? Describe to yourself the feeling that a sperm whale feels in the cavernous depths as it uses echolocation to hunt giant squid. How do you describe color to one who's never seen color? But he begins to see it. But then he knows he's been lied to, but then there is an even brighter source of light. Humans like moths to flame. So he's still groping. Okay, yes, he's going to come up the stairs. He's going to pass all of this. And he sees It's like a train wreck. You can't help but go. Wait, what's that light back there? So he goes and he goes up. And the light gets brighter and brighter. And as he comes out of the cave into the real world, think about coming out of that theater. What do you see first? You see your feet. Like, oh, and you see the shadows there. But your eyes have to slowly adjust, right? Yeah, I mean, literally, you have all had this moment where you go, hey, did you see that part in the movie where you, oh, hold on, stop, hold on, hang on, right? This is, imagine never seeing light. But he looks at his feet and he sees his own shadow. And he instantly says, man, tree, man. But he knows that he remembers the tree, and he remembers the false tree, and he remembers the real tree. And he says, I think that may not be the real man. It's just a guess, but I'm thinking that's not the real man. So let me look around here. So he moves on. This, yes, indeed, my students, this is a pool of water. It's a bubbling brook. He looks down into it and he sees, for the first time in his life, he sees his own reflection. There he is, waving with the ripples of the water in color. And he says, man. But he's still somewhat hesitant. And then he looks up. He looks up and he sees the real tree waving in the wind in technicolor with the texture of its bark, with the fractal pattern of its thousands of leaves, with maybe a squirrel chirping and running up. Here it is. And he raises his hand and he says, tree, but tree. And then there's the Homer Simpson again. Oh my God. And he realizes he hasn't been lied to once. He hasn't been lied to twice. This is the third lie. Maybe. Because look, he thought this was the true tree. He thought this was the real tree. He was wrong both times. First, someone lied to him. The second time, he lied to himself. Or you could say someone else lied to him. And then he comes up, and this is the tree. Now, oh my gosh, now he knows the truth, doesn't he? And he thinks to himself, he says, I thought this was the giver of all truth. I thought this was the giver of all truth, the prescriber of all things. But it's not either one of those. It must be this. This great ball of fire in the sky must be the thing that prescribes truth, that gives reality, that gives the veracity to this experience, the thing that shows us what's real and what's false. So now he's illuminated. He's enlightened. Now think of that word, enlightened. Enlightened. What's the root of the word? Light. Where he was blind. I see. So what does it mean? It's an allegory. What does it mean? And so I say, who are these people then? Who are they? My friends, that's you and I. That's you and me. We are the prisoners. We are here in this cave right now as we speak. And in this cave, there are shadows being played before us like puppets. And somebody is telling us what those shadows mean. Who are they? Maybe they are our parents. The first voice, the first image you see in this world is mother or father. And then those voices mean a lot. Don't they say, son, daughter, this is a tree? But what are they telling you from? They're telling you from their education from other puppet masters before them. So how well do they communicate that idea of a tree? Maybe they're communicating a shadow to you, not on purpose. How about teachers? Professors? Hey man, I'm doing my best. But I've been educated by many like me before me. I'm telling you what I know from them, from me. But I can't see through your eyes, right? Am I a puppet master, or am I trying to describe truth the best that I can? These puppet masters kind of have a nefarious purpose, an evil purpose, right? They are telling the prisoners something that is clearly false, something that they know is false. They know that this is not the real tree, because presumably they made the cardboard cutout that makes the shadow. Who does things like that? Some people might say religious leaders. It depends. I mean, you may be a dead set Christian and good, fine. So then it's all the other religious leaders who are the puppet masters for their congregation. They're the false prophet. How about cult leaders? Goes without saying, right? How about politicians? Oh, wait. Politicians always tell the truth. We know this. So they couldn't possibly... Sorry, I just threw up a little. Politicians, for sure. Anyone with an ulterior motive. How about salespeople? What do they sell? What is the only product that there is? Here we go. I think I've used this illustration before, but here we go. We're in a car commercial for a BMW. I'm in this BMW and it's on at a certain time during a certain time slot, targeting specific individuals. I'm in this car. So you're in this car commercial. Ferris Bueller, you're coming over the thing, right? And you're in this red. It's gotta be red. Come on. You're in this red BMW and you're coming over. You're in the air and you got your arm around some hot chick. She's blonde and her hair is flowing. And then you got $1,000 bills coming out of your pockets, and you're so happy. You're laughing. You've succeeded in the world, and this is the cream. This is the icing. And you can eat icing every day for the rest of your life, and happiness will always be there. And this will happen if you buy the BMW. Wait, what? Yes. They're selling the only product that there is future happiness. You're selling the future. You're speculating. Buy these Ginsu knives and you'll never have to worry about knives again. So are salesmen. Look, here's happiness before you. Go just get it. Puppet masters. Who else? How about the media? How about the news? You know where I'm going with this. There is a TV in this house that is on, and I kid you not, 24 hours a day on some kind of news network. It alternates between MSNBC, CNN, Fox News, PBS, and on Sunday, it's all over the okay. So I watch all of these things. I read the New York Times. My things are the New York Times, Time magazine. I read the Politico sometimes. I read New York Post sometimes. Wall Street Journal, and then the Austin American Statesman. I read those. Okay, I've noticed something. They're all pretty consistent, and I mean, I'm careful with absolutes like all. They're all pretty consistent except one, and that's Fox News. And I'm not trying to be political. I'm just trying to be true. When you turn over to Fox News, it's like you entered another universe. It doesn't conform really in much of any kind of way, any meaningful way, with all of those other pieces of journalism. And for me, that doesn't pass the smell test. So what's happening? And that's all I'll say about that. But what's happening? Someone is telling you this is true, but they have a motive. And you know what that's called? It's called propaganda. But here's what happened. I want to ask you two things, and these are the most important two things that I've ever asked you in your whole life. I think they're the most important two things you'll ever be asked. One, this is not the you were deceived. You were lied to. This is not the real truth. You were lied to twice. This is level one. This is level two. Now, you have gotten out of the cave. You're illuminated. You're enlightened. What's up here? Wait, you were lied to once, twice, and this is the third level. How do you know there's not a fourth level? So nobody wakes up. Maybe some people do. I don't know. Few people wake up in the morning and just stretch out and say, yep, I'm pretty much a dumbass. What do they say? They wake up and say, yep, this is the way the universe is, and I've got it all figured out. How is that any different from being down here? So my challenge to you, my beloved students, my challenge to you is to every day wake up and seek the next level. It's there. Attempting to see what you cannot see. And that's what this allegory is about. It's about truth. And what is truth? Where does it come from? How do you find it? And why do people hide it? Second question. You have become enlightened. You are intelligent. You are bright. You've seen the real tree, but you have a choice now. You remember your friends down here. And they're still playing that stupid game. And you feel sorry for them. You have empathy. You're like, gosh, man, I really feel like maybe what I should do is go back down into that cave. Here's what happens. The question follows. He comes and he says, I feel compelled to go help my brothers and sisters down in the cave. So he goes back. And the metaphor of the cloudy eyes is that truth is very hard to see at first. If a flying saucer came and parked over the top of Austin, Texas, we would all look up and the very first thing we would say is, right? It's incredibly hard to see. So that is the metaphor. Your eyes, when you see the truth, have to become accustomed to it. Your eyes is the metaphor for your mind. And so when you go in reverse, it's the reversed order. Going from enlightenment to ignorance, you have to allow your eyes to adjust as well. So here we go. We go back down into the cave. It's like going back into the theater, and he gropes around. And And he comes up and he gets around the fire, and now he knows fire. And he looks down and this time he sees the puppet master. And the puppet master's holding the vessel, the tree. And he says, identify the object. And he says, and he gives him the hand. And so he goes down and he comes down and he stands in front of his guys and he says, guys, look, they told you that's the tree. That's not the tree. That's like some vague copy. And then I thought this was the tree. That's not even the tree. There's a real tree. I've seen it. It's like, and it's color. It's like color is like the different parts are. It's hot. It's like Valentine. No, okay, but there's a tree, and it has texture and color, and it's all this. And here, and I'm going to unloose your chains and come with me. Let me lead you to the light. And they kill him. They kill him. And that ends the allegory. Literally, that is the end of the story. And so you have to ask yourself, you're begging the question, why? Why did they kill him? Who gets assassinated? What was Monday, last Monday? Martin Luther King? No. Wait, Martin Luther King. Wait. So he went back down and said, guys, this racism and who else? How about Socrates, the man who delivered this allegory? They put him to death for corrupting the minds of the youth of Athens. The irony is almost too much for me to bear. How about Jesus Christ? How about Abraham Lincoln? How about Gandhi? You can almost take your pick. And it doesn't have to be a literal assassination. It can be a career assassination, like the young anthropologist who proposed the Clovis people settling of North America. That's another story in itself. Most people said the Native Americans came over the land bridge, and these people came out and said, no, we found these Clovis arrowheads from the western part of France, and it was this whole thing. And the professor says, I have published books on this, and you could know, you come in here. Because we have one down here who's an expert to come in here. You come in here with your new ideas. And so here's the question. So you've become enlightened. And Shanafelt, I hope you remember this for the rest of your life. Shanafelt asked me to keep searching because you never know whether you're on the top level or in the cave. And how do you keep searching? You open your mind. You don't know. Like Socrates didn't know. And that's what made him the wisest person on earth. So you've become enlightened. My question for you is, are you going to go back down into that cave? Because I promise they will try to kill you. So you have to be ready. You have to be ready. You have to be ready for what comes. So what is truth? What is reality? Reality is that which can be verified. Reality is that which conforms to the real world. Your job, your goal in life should be open-minded. What does that mean? That means never to know everything. That means to be open to new suggestions, to train your eyes to go through the trauma of coming into the light. And a lot of it has to do with humility. What does that word mean, humility? It means to admit when you're wrong. That is the hardest thing for most people to do, to be humble. But let me tell you two things. Number one, always tell the truth. Why? It will infuriate your enemies. And the second reason is to make you a good person. And the third reason is you won't have to remember the lies that you told. The truth is the most precious and profound thing that exists in this universe. 2 + 2 = 4 is the most unbelievable, profound, sublime, and even divine thing I've ever heard. Seek the truth.